back.
Awesome. I'm so ready to go.
What excites you the most about the group of guys that you have going into this year?
The unknown. I love the unknown. I love the challenge of the unknown, and you know, knowing that we got guys like Mike and Mark coming back to the team, it's really an exciting time.
How much is going through your head of, that positive unknown of what you can do differently?
I mean, it's we have a different team now, and we have a team that I think has more skill and more speed, and that obviously is something I've talked about a lot. That I'd like to have a team that can do that. So Chris and them have done a great job with that. So I'm really excited about it.
Well, John, obviously the talk is grit and grind dead. But when you came in as a head coach, that initial press conference, you said you were a grit and grind guy. That Miami was a grit and grind team.
Yeah, I mean, why does that have to be dead? No, I think that would do a disservice to the guys that established that. Long before I got here. And who doesn't want to be called gritty and grinding? Like that's a great slogan for us. And so I don't want to lose that edge. I just want to play a little faster.
Coach, you've obviously been at the forefront of sports and politics have kind of collided. What was your reaction to the stuff with NBA and NFL players this weekend? And have you guys talked about maybe doing something as a team moving forward as the season starts?
No, we haven't talked as a team yet. Everything's been about training camp and things like that. But, so many comments are made so often now that's like you can't meet with your team every single time that he decides to make outlandish statements like that. The great part about it is that what you saw was a community come together against what he said. That brought me great pride, whether they stood for the national anthem and locked arms, whether they had a hand on a brother, or whether they were kneeling. I just thought it showed real togetherness, and that's what we got to continue to do when so many things right now are trying to divide us.
If your team did do something, do you expect, Memphians, this crowd, do you expect that you'd get support from them?
Yeah, I feel like even around the city, just from the stuff that I came out about this summer, I felt such great support. No matter where I've gone, it's been just, Coach, we got your back. We totally agree with you. There's no place for that stuff in our city. Our guys are closely connected to this community, and it's bigger than basketball. So I would suspect that we would have great support in whatever we do. And if our guys did something, it was going to be first class, and it won't be something ragtag. It'll be done right, but it'll also be done within their rights as citizens.
As fractured as the last 72 hours have been, though, any ideas, suggestions on how to fix it moving forward?
Well, I've already went to my solution bag. I'm not waiting on government or anybody to help our city. I'm all about getting into the community and getting our hands dirty and helping our people directly. So, when it comes to solutions for the things that guys are protesting, obviously I already started a PALS at, the Police Athletic League here. We're going to be doing other things with officers and kids so that we can start establishing better relationships. Obviously, Director Rollins and I have had a lot of intimate conversations about making real change when it comes to reform and things like that. So, we're active right now, and I really do feel like we got the total support of the community. I think everybody's ready to make this change, and it just gives me great pride in calling myself a Memphian now.
In terms of the Confederate statues, obviously an important meeting in a couple of weeks with the state. Why has it been so important for you, and what do you hope will come out of that in a couple of weeks?
Well, again, I know these topics make people uncomfortable, but just think about how black people feel when they walk by those statues. It's uncomfortable for us, and there's no place for it in the context that it's being held. I think there's a place in history for it, no doubt about it, but not out in the public view as if these guys were positive contributors to our city and that they stood for the right things. You don't get monuments built for you for that. So we all know why those statues are here. The history is well documented why they put those statues in these cities. And so I just felt like as a coach on this platform and someone who truly cares about civil rights and humanity and about my common man and woman, that I had to step up and say something about it. And, I don't regret one bit of it.
Coach, where do you see the evolution of Mike Conley going from his playoff performance into this season?
Well, he's been back here for a little while now working out with our young guys. And I already see a great jump in his game. in his preparation. You know, I think he, after going through a year with me and understanding what I was asking of him, now he knows what's coming, and he's come back in incredible shape. He's worked on different aspects of his game that fit our system. He's prepared himself to play faster. You know, and I think his leadership's going to go up a whole nother level.
Is there a sense of excitement with this so-called turning of the page? But is there, with this new team and the way you want to play, the unknown, does that excite you in terms of the way this team can play new this year?
Yeah, it does. And like I said, it's obviously, you know, before I go into the new, I don't want to discount the contributions of the guys that's gone. Those guys will always be loved here. They'll always have a home here in Memphis. You know, they established an incredible foundation for this organization. So I want to make sure that that's out there first. But second, you know, as a coach, you always look forward to the challenge of the unknown. I embrace it. And, you know, like I said, I think Chris Wallace and those guys did an incredible job of filling our roster with very little money, and going out and getting the kind of players that really fit together in a system that can play faster, can play with more space, that can highlight Mark and Mike to a really high level. And, you know, obviously everybody will be in a wait-and-see mode, but I think all of our guys are on board with it and they're prepared for it.
Are you cautiously optimistic that Chandler will be the Chandler that this team expected a year ago?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously we got to wait and see, and I just feel like he's way further ahead coming into this training camp than he was last year. From a health standpoint, he really put in an excellent summer of rehab and training and strengthening. It was very consistent, and we did it in collaboration with each other, with a big-time guy in LA named John Meyer, who rehabs a lot of athletes back from tough injuries. So, yeah, I am optimistic about it and hopeful that he will be able to contribute.
Will there be any restrictions when you start playing exhibition games with him? How will you treat him?
I mean, obviously, I'm not gonna use kid gloves with him this year for sure. He's got to get out into the fire and hit and bang and test his body. I don't want to find that out during the course of the games. So training camp, he's full go, and I think he's excited about that. And you know, we're gonna throw him out there and let's see what happens.
Preseason is a little bit shorter, maybe a lot shorter. Season starts a lot earlier. How important is it to get more in less time?
It's huge, but I also think that if you try to get good at too many things, you won't be good at anything. So, you know, we're coming in with a real, I would say, a whole new structure actually on how we're going to implement stuff. Obviously, with our new facility downstairs, I'm going to utilize every piece of that locker room and weight room and things like that. So we're going to really try to maximize our time and make sure that we get really good at the game we want to play. And get connected as teammates.
Do you have a sense if, in terms of the twos, Tyreek, Wayne, it could be a competition? Do you have a sense how that's going to play out?
I'm going to roll the ball out and see which Bulldog wants it. And, you know, the good part about it is that all of those guys are capable. And so that's a good problem to have for me, is that there's real competition there, you know, for those minutes. But at the same time, I need both guys to play at a high level this year.
Point guard, you're going to roll the ball out?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. It's only two givens in the lineup right now, and I think you guys know who those are. And everybody else is fighting for the rest. So I think the competition is a good element to have. It'll make guys either rise to the occasion or step back, and the guys that rise will play.
You went to go watch Mark. You saw him overseas, and it looked like he was in really good physical shape.
Yeah.
What were your conversations like?
We had great talks. I just wanted to go support him, and you know how I am. I like to make sure I spend time with every player, you know, before the season starts, and you know, I wanted to make sure he felt how important it was for me to see him. So I waited until he was in Romania, and somewhere I never thought I would ever fly to, but it was awesome, man. That's Transylvania. I didn't know, I didn't know any of this stuff. So I get over there and it's like all this stuff about Dracula's and all of the stores and stuff. So I'm like, oh man, this is pretty cool. But it was actually, I learned a lot. I really studied this team. I stole a lot of their plays that they run for them. Their coach ran great stuff for them. You know, I really studied the camaraderie that they had built. Obviously, it's a different element for them because all those guys grew up together and money's not involved, so it's a little. You can come together a little easier when you're not playing for checks, but there is a special camaraderie between those guys, and if I can get any element of that into this team, I wanted to learn it. So it was a really good learning lesson for me.
Do you want Mark to remain as captain?
Well, yeah, I mean, Mike and Mark have to be the leaders of this team. I don't think that's not even optional. Those guys have to step up as leaders, and I'm going to keep pressuring them to do it. And that process is not always pretty. Everybody thinks people just jump into leadership and, hey, I'm a leader, and no, it does not work like that. You have to go through it. You have to go through some bumps and bruises. You have to go through some tough times. And, as long as we're all pushing in the same direction, I don't see why they wouldn't be great leaders.
Coach,
last year, a lot of what you did was about everything you could do to help Mark and Mike be the best players they could be. Because you only have those two as the givens in your lineup, once you start to figure out who those other guys are going to be, does it have to flip the other way a little bit with even Mike and Mark doing more to make those other guys the best they can be?
Well, yeah, I think it's a symbiotic relationship. Those guys all have to help each other back and forth, but at the same time, I feel like we had, in my coaching career, I haven't seen many summers of development like we had this summer. Our coaching staff was everywhere they needed to be with every one of our players. No player fell through the cracks this summer. I really feel like every guy got better. I think you saw in Summer League, Wade Baldwin's a better basketball player than he was the summer before. Wayne Selden is a better basketball player than he was before. Dede is a better player than he was before. So you go through all of those young guys. Jarrell, every single one of them really made big strides this summer. And so I think after a playoffs, going through a playoff series with some of these guys playing big minutes for me, I'm expecting those guys to step into the role and really take off.
You said yourself that you would study coaching over the summer. How different might you be in year 2 as opposed to year 1 being head coach?
I can't force certain things, like leadership. I tried to force leadership last year, and that's an organic thing. And I really, as a rookie coach, tried to push that onto the guys, and that was totally unfair of me from that standpoint and how I did it. And so I took a step back and really evaluated myself that way from a leadership standpoint. The other thing I pressed really hard was this family thing, and that's another thing that's very organic that has to come from the guys, and I would just continue to try to facilitate that kind of environment. But ultimately, if they're going to like each other like family, that has to come from them. And so I really try to like I said, evaluate myself in a harsh and critical way. Obviously, I met with a ton of coaches this summer. I think you saw Larry out there with me in Summer League, but I met with a lot of guys, and I really tried to pick their brains on not just X's and O's, but really the intricate details of team and how to grow a team and how to develop a team. So, and the best part about it is the coaches that I met with, they don't have a problem telling me I'm screwed up. And that was great, to get real brutal honesty about how I can go about being better.
Fizz, I know you can only coach the players that you have. How do you keep your eye on what's going on with Jamichael, who's supposed to, come back as maybe your starting 4? How do you deal with that over these next days or weeks?
I let the other guys deal with that, and I just keep working with the guys that's here. And obviously I can't comment much about that. So everyone knows how we feel about him. I love him. He knows that. The fact that I was willing to start him over an all-star, I think my action says enough about how I feel about him. So, right now I gotta, what Coach Smart always says, coach the living, right? The guys that's on the court standing there ready, that's ready to compete. And so, if and when we get them, I'm gonna be happy as heck. And until then, I gotta really focus in on this group of guys that's here right now.
Coach, where do you get the?
He sounded that when you think about it, he wasn't happy with how it played out. Did you get with him over the summer?
Oh yeah. I went to Nashville to see he and his wife. We spent a couple of great days together. B-Wright is first class, and he's a pro. And it's not always going to be sunshine and roses with these guys. And the fact that he wanted more of a role, how can you be mad at that? He and I are in a great place. I think he'll tell you that as well. We actually went to lunch the other day just to have a lunch over at Pearl's. So which is awesome if y'all haven't been here. By the way, great season. But he's, you know, like I said, he's another guy who I'm gonna lean on from a leadership standpoint and really, you know, grooming young guys to understand how to be professionals.
Coach, where do you?
I can't comment.